subscribe, support, stay positive. Hi, I'm Tommy in C2010, and I'm here with my grandfather, Gene. And my grandfather, for most of his life, drove truck. And I'm here to interview him. Grampy, where did you go across the United States? Were you ever a long hauler?
Yep.
Where'd you go to?
Most of them driving was up the East Coast from Florida to Canada.
I understand you did some driving in upstate New York. Where around upstate did you drive around?
That was where I was from originally, Rochester area.
Rochester?
Yep.
I was actually in upstate New York a while back ago, and it's very beautiful up there.
It is. Yeah, born and raised there.
I understand that you were a farmer before you were a truck driver.
Right.
Understand you owned your own property and,
Had a dairy farm.
dairy farm?
Yep.
Now, was there ever, a lot of diseases breaking out on the farm, or was it?
No, we kept them under control. Yeah.
What was your first truck you ever drove, Abby?
That I ever drove, or
Yeah.
when did I decide to drive truck?
Yeah, when did you decide to drive truck?
The thing that made me decide to drive truck was when I was back in high school, and I read a book called T Model Tommy.
Really?
Really?
T-model Tommy?
Yep.
Was there ever a truck like that or something?
Well, if you ever get a chance in the library, look it up. I got it out of the library, and so they might have one, and that's what it's called.
So, what?
And that taught me that I would probably enjoy truck driving.
Now, driving truck is it an enjoyable thing? Would you say people out there would like that as a career?
Yeah, there's lots of people that would.
Does it pay much?
It's pretty good pay.
Really?
Yeah. It's not the best, but you're your own boss, and you can, if you're own your own truck, you can go and come as you please most of the time, unless you're leased to somebody, and then you have to haul their loads. There aren't too many anymore that just go and come as they please. Most of them are leased to people, or they're company-owned trucks.
How many, now, I don't know, you probably don't know this, but how many rigs? I understand that you owned all your trucks that you drove. Now, now one thing you should know, folks, is through half of his life, I rode with him. And, illegally sometimes, because the companies didn't want me in the truck with him. And how many rigs would you say you owned? Because I understand that you were a logger and dump truck driver also.
I don't know, probably 25, 30.
30?
Yeah.
Now, what was the most fun job for you, being a logger or driving with trailers?
They were all enjoyable, all different. That was the nice thing about trucking. You doing different things at different times, and you weren't subject to having to punch a time clock or go in and out of the same office every day. You just went from one customer to another. Took them their merchandise and unloaded it, went back for another load.
Was there any complications with paperwork?
Lots of it. That's the worst part.
Was that one of the reasons why you got out of trucking, was because of a lot of the paperwork? And
No, just old age.
What age did you stop trucking?
I don't know. I was 78 and I quit.
Really? Now, I'm curious, in the trucking industry, now, okay, one question is, are truckers nice people?
I guess most of them I ever met were.
Yeah, how many businesses have you worked for, Grampy?
I don't know. Have to guess.
I remember one of the companies, I can't remember the logging organization you worked for, but I remember there was Cheetah, BTT. Well, no, before that, it was the company with the United States on it, and I think it went under. I think I don't know if they're still driving, or you rode for them. You drove for them.
I drove for a lot of them. It's gone and come. But, yeah, probably 10 or 12 different companies.
Now, being a truck driver, did you ever get to see a lot of interesting things out there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, lots of things.
Do you think it's wrong that back in the day that companies made their workers work in buildings that had asbestos in it, and do you think it was wrong of them to do that to workers like that?
Well, they didn't, at least they claimed they didn't know it did it to them at the time, so that was their excuse. They didn't realize till later in life that you got this breathing problem with your lungs out of asbestos.
You are you have sorry about that, Ramsey. Sorry about that. That was just somebody was calling me. At any point, did you find that the trucking organization filled a gap in your life? That it was pretty much that was kind of like the happiness of your life was driving truck.
Part of it.
Yeah, and so you say that people should be truck drivers. You know, it'd be a good career choice for people to drive truck.
Sure. I enjoyed it. Takes a special person to enjoy doing something like that.
Now, how long does it take to unload a trailer? Would you say a long one, especially? How long would you say that takes to unload one of those?
I don't know. Our driver doesn't do that anymore. They just take the trailer and drop it off, pick up an empty one, and go to the next place and load it, take it to the next place. You don't have to unload trailers much anymore.
Oh. Now, how long does it take for a trucker to get detention time? Detention time, you should know, folks, is you're probably the ideal of you get in trouble and you go after school and you have to sit there and do homework. Detention time for a truck driver is when he gets paid money. The trucker sits there for a certain amount of point, but if the company takes too long, the trucker gets paid more money than because the trucker was supposed to unload his load and leave, but the company took too long unloading the trailer, so now the company is paying the trucker, as my grandfather, more money so he could wait there because he has other appointments to get to. My grandfather would take one load, unload it, drive back up to Jacksonville, drive back and forth, and during the extensive my grandfather's career, as what I saw, my grandpa did one load per day and then drove home and then got up early in the morning that day because he drove truck in Florida back and forth from Tampa to what other places did you go to in Florida, Grampy?
All over Tampa to Jacksonville, Cocoa, Melbourne, Lakeland, all over between Central Florida and the border. Yeah.
Now, I have another question for you. In your career, did you ever get into any accidents, Grampy?
Not many, just one bad one.
Was that the one where the woman pulled out in front of you in Jacksonville and she slammed on the brakes and you plowed right in the back of her?
Right.
One thing you should do, folks, when you're driving on the highway is respect everybody, including truckers.
Especially truckers.
Yeah. This woman decided that she would pull out in front of my grandfather, step on the brakes in the fast lane, and 18-wheelers can't stop on a dime, honestly. And my grandfather was driving, she pulled out in front of him, boom, smacked right in the back of it. She had 2 kids in the back seat. Kids didn't scream one bit. They, little shooken up, but
Scared them to death.
Now that you are not driving anymore, do you miss driving?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Let me think here. Through this, have you ever thought about getting behind the wheel of a tractor trailer at all?
No, too old now. Too late in life.
What is the things that people mostly need to be in the trucking business, would you say?
Can't have any criminal records. We gotta have a class special license for tractor trailer drivers.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, my grandfather comes from a different era of people, and if you're gonna ask, no, he was not. He did not serve time in the war. He was actually born during World War I. Am I right?
No.
Oh, born during.
Yeah.
Well,
I
yeah.
don't know.
What?
Right around the end of World War I.
So my grandfather did. One thing about it was in my grandfather's life, he was gonna go into the war, but my grandmother stopped him. Am I right?
Yeah.
May she rest in peace. She was a good woman. She was a saint, and we wish she could be here. And she's in a better place now. Isn't that right, Rampy?
Right.
Now, I understand you drove dump truck. I understand.
Yeah.
Was that a fun experience getting to drive dump truck?
It was a job.
Now, was it mostly just dump the load and then go off to the next area, next work?
Go back and forth, depending on what you were hauling. Asphalt, dirt, rock, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You just hauled whenever loads they needed till you got it all, your material there to them. Then you went to another job and done the same thing.
Now, your family history. Is there any particular famous people out of now? Do you mind if I say the last name of your name, Grampy?
Yeah.
Now, out of the Washburn family, out of the Washburn name, is there any iconical people inside that name?
Not that I know of.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. No presidents, no big politicians, bunch of nigger haters.
You don't know who's this. What was your father like?
I said that on purpose for your benefit.
Oh, that's funny, Greg. Oh, especially when we were in the hospital with Mima, and there was a couple, interracial couple, and you said that, and we're just like, Rampy. Was your father ever a truck driver, Rampy?
No, hated trucks.
Really?
Yeah.
So was he mostly just a farmer?
Yeah.
Oh.
A miller. Run mills for companies.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of man was he? Was he very straightforward guy, or was he just
Regular, old-fashioned guy. Yeah,
what was your mother like?
just a regular wife back in those days.
Mm.
Didn't work, stayed home, took care of us kids.
Hmm.
Yeah. Very normal life.
So, Brad, one of the stories I remember you telling me is when you first driving truck, you were driving the truck and the instructor was riding with you, and you said you were testing the brakes out, and
No, I was taking a road test to get my license way back up in New York State, and I come around a curve, and I had the tester riding with me, and he had his book and everything. Of course, we didn't have seatbelts back then. When I come around the curve, a car backed out in front of me, and I hit the brakes, and when I did, it slammed him into the windshield. He wrote me up that I couldn't take my test for 30 days because I had an accident while taking my test.
you prevented a car from being run over, and you slammed on your brakes, and he didn't, bother to pay attention to the fact that you were slamming your brakes.
Yeah,
So,
he probably wasn't watching, and I see it before he did, because I just come around the corner like that, and there that car was. Hit the brakes, threw him into the windshield.
was
He
that?
called that an accident.
No, I call that, in my opinion, maybe I call it stupidity. He
Yeah.
should have been paying attention. He was the one who was training you. He had more experience than you had.
Well, he wasn't training me, he was just checking me to see if I knew enough to drive the truck. It must be, he figured when I hit the brakes that hard that I didn't have brains enough to operate the truck, so he wasn't gonna give me my license. So he gave me a few days to think it over before I take another test,
Jeez.
30 days.
How back in your day, how simple was it to get a driver's license for a truck?
It was hard. She had to have the truck, and back then you couldn't run them like you can today. And, so you had to borrow a truck from a fellow you knew or somebody. It was kind of hard to get a driver's license for a tractor trailer
Mm.
up in New York State.
Now, do you have any old now, Grandpa, you told me a story a while back ago, about some personal stuff when you were still farming, on your property. You told me about the guy that, came up to your house and you decided to go to the fair. And, back in the day, if you have ever seen an old-fashioned farm, like not old-fashioned fair, they used to have nudie shows, and women would go up there and show off. And my grandfather had a guy that worked with him up on his farm. He was a good kid, and my grandfather took him out to the fair, and he took him into there, and then she said the guy kind of got a little blushed because of the whole situation.
Yeah. Embarrassed the young man. He had seen girls nude before.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Grassy, for letting me interview you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
thanks. And I'm Tommy in C2010, and keeping you on the inside fact.